Today, we're gonna be doing things a little bit different and going outside of the realm of film and going into the world of digital. And we're gonna be reviewing a fairly interesting camera to go with. And that, of course, is a camera that was released back in 2008. And that camera is this one here, which is the Canon SD1100 IS. Now, the reason I ended up picking up this camera was this is actually my girlfriend's camera from when she was younger, and she actually found this in a box when we were in the middle of moving. So that's where this camera came from. I didn't go out and buy this. I just wanted to check it out because right now in the world we live in, Digicams are making a pretty interesting comeback. I think this has a lot to do with obviously film blowing up and now people wanting to essentially try to replicate film, and they do that with these Digicams. And plus, on top of that, I'm usually flooded on a day-to-day basis on people selling lower end cameras like this to match a very interesting aesthetic. So that made me think, you know what, let's go out and see what all the hype is. So I did some research on this camera and I shot it for a bit, and I'm pretty blown away by this camera itself. I never thought I would end up being in the Digicam phase because I'm like in love with film, but here I am checking out one of these older Digicams. Now, to kind of rewind things a bit, 2008 was a fairly interesting time to be around. We are 2 years away from Instagram coming up, and we are at a time where in order for you to really document your life, you had to have a point and shoot like this one here. If you had to capture concerts, outings with your friends, going to the skate park, anything, you had a point and shoot with you. And that's the reason to put stuff up on your on your MySpace, and if you were a cooler kid, on your Facebook. But for the most part, this was a time where photography was a very interesting thing and almost a luxury. A lot of these point and shoots were becoming a lot more affordable, and they were still on the expensive end, but a lot cheaper than when digital first came out. So it made them very, very appealing to a lot of people during that generation. And nowadays you have the younger folks coming to this because they're looking at them like, wow, these pictures have soul in them. Because of course, as you know it now, a lot of our cameras are sucking the soul out of your images. They're too perfect, too crisp, and that of course can sometimes be a little bit unappealing when it comes to pictures. So now we're going back in time and chasing that nostalgic dream. And this camera here, the Canon SD1100 IS, is just really interesting. Now again, this was released back in 2008. It does have an optical zoom, I believe of 3. It also allows you to shoot in various different modes, on top of the fact that it has 8 megapixels. So image quality is going to be fairly interesting, but pretty good. Now megapixels doesn't really amount to the overall image quality, just to how big you can blow up the image, and of course, other aspects of your overall image, but it's mostly around how big you can essentially photograph or how big you can blow up your images. Now let's jump right into the camera itself. The camera itself is a point and shoot. It's tiny. You can stick this in your pocket, and it's just a very versatile camera. It allows you to shoot a ton of pictures. And I think what I really, really like about it is the overall limiting factor that it has. It's very reminiscent of a film camera in digital format. I mean, for the most part, it doesn't do well in low light, very similar to film. And on top of that, you don't really have too much flexibility. But when I started shooting this camera, I had no idea how to navigate the settings because this camera menu is so clunky like most of these older cameras. But what I did really, really like about it was how easy it was to use once you got used to all the settings. You are able to go through various different types of settings in here. You can go from portrait mode. You can also do macro mode, which allows you to shoot really close. And it also has the ability to shoot from manual to automatic. So you have different settings you can choose from. When you put it in manual mode, you have the ability to just update your ISO. So you want to add extra grain, beef up that ISO to I think it's 1600 it goes to, or you can drop it down to ISO 50 for like minimal grain. And it also has very interesting filters in here as well. It has the ability to highlight greens, highlight red. It has a black and white filter, and believe it or not, it has a positive film filter in here as well, which is pretty funny because if you think of it now, a lot of the newer cameras are always looking at like film recipes and things like that. And here we are with a camera that essentially does that within the camera itself. Now, when I shot this camera, I was really pleased and kind of taken aback that yes, you could see the images on the back, which is something that I'm totally not used to shooting film. And having a mini screen to see these images was pretty game-changing in my opinion. And I was able to go a little bit crazy, like, because I don't typically do that with film. I'm always having to really critically think, is this shot worth it, or am I going to spend extra cash on a frame that's going to suck? So yeah, I was able to go really free and just kind of go crazy and shoot everything, and it was just immense amount of fun. And I think that was one of the reasons why I told myself, maybe I should just keep this camera in my camera bag or wherever I go if I don't want to take a film camera. The other fun thing about this camera is that it does shoot video. And this is kind of where you start seeing the hybrids trend coming around. It's something we see today, right? Your DSLR, your point and shoot, they shoot video. And during this time, this was a very revolutionary thing. I mean, how cool would it be to go to a concert, go to the beach, and you're vlogging and doing crazy stuff, and you're probably wondering, what does the video look like from a camera in 2008? What is the vibe? Well, let's jump into the vibe of 2008. And welcome to 2008. Now, the vibe is pretty interesting. Obviously, this is 7x20, and this at the time was groundbreaking. Like, if you had a camera like this, you were able to do crazy things. Go to the beach, go with your friends, go to a concert, do those crazy stunts that, you know, from TV shows that were coming out on MTV. This was what you would do. You would vlog, have fun, and yeah, the vibes are pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I should have filmed the B-roll for this on this camera, and I didn't, but you get a sense of what the video quality looks like. But let's get back to the year 2025. Now, shooting this camera was a lot of fun. I generally really liked the aesthetic of the overall images that I got. I did shoot it in the positive film setting in here, and I also set it to, I believe, 400 ISO, shooting on a bit of a brighter day. But I could see why people are starting to fall for Digicams. I mean, the image quality is pretty immaculate. I'm not gonna lie, it feels really, really great, and it has those imperfections because the technology is just so lo-fi in my opinion. It almost feels like I'm shooting through a very high-end disposable camera from the era. You get the softening that happens in some of the areas of your images. You get softening on the edges and vignetting happening in some situations. Maybe sometimes not capturing things so perfectly. And then you also get some camera shake because remember, this camera doesn't do well in low light. But do not fear, this camera does have an internal flash, which essentially allows you to do even more and create even more of those, you know, very nostalgic photos of the flash going off in the middle of the night or something, and then having your friends just glow in the center. It's a very cool camera in my opinion. Now, the price point for this camera is pretty crazy to me. I mean, you can buy one of these cameras right now on eBay from $100 US to up to $140 US, which is pretty crazy. But then again, it is a digital camera, you can see the images, and it also is going to allow you to shoot as many photographs as you want or until the SD card fills up. Which brings us to the other aspect. This does take a SD card. Now, I did run into issues with the SD card because this is an older camera. I actually put a 64 gigabyte SD card in here and the camera flipped out and was like, dude, what is this? And it was giving me all kinds of crazy errors. So I had to go through like a majority of my boxes trying to find a lower memory SD card, and voila, I found an 8 gigabyte SD card, and that did the charm, and that made the camera work. And it can allow you to shoot, I think, up to 2,000 images if you shoot in like super fine or whatnot. But for the most part, that's pretty awesome. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get out into the streets of San Francisco and let's go see what an older Digicam from 2008 can do in 2025. Let's hit the streets.